Hello, welcome to Deep Dive. My name's Kevin Benedict, and I want to thank you guys for joining us today. For this episode, I went looking for a guru around social media, a thought leader in the industry, somebody that knows their way around Instagram and all the various platforms out there, and I found a savvy click chick. That's Yvette Irwin, and she works right here. She's right down the hall from me, and I have the privilege of learning from her and interviewing her today. Thank you for joining us, Yvette.
Wow, Kevin, that's quite a setup. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm excited to talk about social media. I'm passionate about it.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Now, social media can be talked about in all different kinds of, focus on different kinds of areas. Today, I want to focus for business leaders. What is really the purpose outside of pure marketing? What is the focus and purpose of social media? So Yvette, let me just start out and ask you that question. If I'm a business leader, why do I care, outside of just marketing my company and products, why do I care about social media?
You care about social media because your customers care about social media. This is where your customers are. And they have learned to look for customers and brands, discover new brands through social media. It's not now the same as it used to be years ago, where you're relying on just word of mouth. Word of mouth is social. It is a network that's all intertwined that literally helps people discover new brands. If you're not on social, or if you don't have a strategy around social media and building your business, you are losing customers every day. If you don't have a presence there, or if you just have a presence and no strategy, trust me, you are missing out on an opportunity, because this is where your customers are and where you want to be.
Oh, very good. So in a digital environment, in the digital economy with e-commerce and everything like that, it's often not necessarily easy also to determine the personality of a company.
Right. Exactly.
So talk to me about personality of a company. How do you display that on social media?
It's all about authenticity. So this is something that customers can sniff out in a second. If you are, I'm just going to make this up, if you are a burger company and yet you are literally talking about or having an affiliation with healthcare, that doesn't necessarily align with your brand. So you definitely want to think about who am I as a company? What are we trying to represent? What are our beliefs? What's our mission? Once you actually understand who you are, then stand in it. Okay. Because you will have customers who believe and have the same ideals as you do. You want to create a community that trusts you because you are authentic. So the thing about social that I'm always talking about is this idea of community. Social is just not another platform that you just, I have a YouTube, I have a LinkedIn. It's not about that. It's about participating in a conversation. And when people actually join in on a conversation, they become part of a community. So let's say that, you know this so well, you do it very well, but let's say that you are just some Joe Smo out there, and you are very, very interested in cars. You're not going to go to a fashion site and talk about cars. Right. You're going to look for organizations and networks that have insight and expertise. And that's exactly what customers are doing. Customers, if they are looking for potato chips, if they're looking for fashion advice, if they have a passion about cars, they're looking for people that they can join in a conversation with. And your company needs to be part of that conversation.
Interesting. So if online, one of the values of e-commerce and digital commerce is the ability to look at products side by side. So knowing that you're always side by side against something, you're always looking at what's going to hold you up and make you different. What differentiates yourself from the whole list of them here on the front page of Google. If they're hungry, and they're looking at a whole list of restaurants, what's going to make you different and special, right? So all of those things come into play. That's so interesting, that engagement there. So there's a difference between B2B use of social media and business to consumer, right?
Yeah.
So B2B, what's the differences in B2B and B2C? How would they use the different platforms differently?
That's a great question, because every social media channel is different. They all serve a different purpose. They all have a different audience. They all have a different type of functionality. And so it's really imperative for leaders to understand that they can't take just the same content and peanut butter spread it all across YouTube and Facebook and so on. They need to really identify what are going to be the most impactful channels for us. So when you ask the difference between B2B versus B2C for social media, it's tremendous. So I have a preference for B2C because I love talking and engaging with the customer and learning from the customer and being part of that conversation. But for B2B, LinkedIn is pivotal. It's pivotal. It's literally the place where businesses should be operating. That should be their very first channel of choice. After that, Twitter, because Twitter is thought leadership.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to LinkedIn really quickly, though, because LinkedIn is not just about showing your brand and showing that you are a thought leader. It's also about listening in to what other people are saying. Whereas with Twitter, it's literally about kind of little quick quips.
Yes.
And it's more PRable, snackable kind of content. But from a business perspective, you also want to look at your leadership. So it's not just about who you are as a brand. Your brand may be doing a really good job in terms of their social media, but your leaders may need a little help. So,
talk to me about that.
Yeah, so what I find a lot more than I would hope or even expect, is that you go into a company. It could be, I go into large companies and I help them with their social strategy. And what I inevitably find is that, okay, you care about it from a brand perspective, but your leaders are not on LinkedIn. Your CEO doesn't have a Twitter account. And no one seems to care. And so part of my mission is to help them understand that your CEO, your executive leadership, your C-suite, they are the face of your brand. It's not enough. You can't get away nowadays with just having your name Frito-Lay. You have to actually have your leaders be able to say something and be able to join in the conversation too, because customers are a lot more savvy than they used to be, and they care about who is behind the brand. And so it's imperative that the leaders have a strategy for building their own personal presence through social media.
Let me give you an example. Last week, my wife and I were in Portland, and we were standing on a sidewalk looking at Patagonia as a store and looking at North Face. And my wife and I were saying, now, which one of these companies, both of their leaders were like investing in saving parks and creating park systems and all this stuff in Patagonia. So which one was it, and which one did the film 180 Degrees, and which one, was died in a kayak accident? And
did you Google it?
All these things, because we wanted to go spend money at the store that was like creating those trail systems in Patagonia.
And that cares about what you care about. And that's the perfect example. That's exactly what customers do nowadays. It's not enough to have a brand that's just been around for a long time. Now people want to understand who's behind this brand. What does this brand support? Are they actually a brand that resonates with me and what's meaningful for me and my family? It's like I said, it's just not enough to think that you can hide behind the brand name. People dig deeper.
Oh, absolutely. I'm getting gray hair.
Are you? I'm getting gray hair too.
But there's advantages to that gray hair, and I'll just call out some of those advantages. The expanded network. So any of us in high tech, every 4 or 5 years we seem to move on to another company. Yeah. And over the course of a 20, 30-year career, you've met a lot of people. And just because you start growing gray hair, a lot of those people you met when you were a junior, kid in the company, now that you're in a more senior position, all of your kind of peer group is also in senior position. Your network becomes extremely valuable to you. Who's going to be your next CFO? Who's going to be your next vice president of sales, who's going to be the next CMO of your company. It can be in your network.
Right.
Having that network, fostering that network, developing that network rewards you a great deal when you get older and in positions yourself.
And social makes it easier than ever. I think people are daunted by it because they feel like, oh, all my personal information is out there, or it's just something that kids do, or they have all these misinterpretations of what social is all about. But truly, first of all, I always say, it's ubiquitous, it's not going away, it's just going to be bigger. So it's time to understand it and to embrace it, because just like the telephone, just like the laptop, just like any other device, it's a mechanism. You can use it however you choose to, but if you choose to ignore it, you're going to eventually be ignored.
Oh yeah, because if you are not participating in the conversation, then people are just talking about you.
Exactly.
You're not contributing back.
Exactly. You're not contributing, but you're also not controlling and owning your own brand. So I'm not talking just the company brand. I'm talking your personal brand, which is something else I'm passionate about. If you're not owning it, you better believe other people are creating it for you. And you may not like what they're saying. So it's much better for you to decide that you want a personal branding strategy that includes social media, and you leverage the heck out of it to put out the messages about yourself that you want people to know and hear.
Absolutely. Now, leaders are busy.
Yeah.
They can't necessarily commit the 1 to 5 hours a day to social media that some people do. So as a business leader with a big organization, what are some of the data points, some of the analytics that they should monitor on a regular basis to know how successful their efforts as a company and even as an individual with a personal brand, what should they be monitoring and
Kevin,
watching?
this is such a great question. And social media is still so new that we're still trying to crack that code for what is going to be the most impactful way to understand the analytics. But for now, there's a couple of things I'd like to say about that. First of all, it's not about acquisition. It's literally not about it's not about measuring how many followers you have, because that's quantity. You really want to measure engagement because that's quality. So if you have specific content that you're putting out about your brand or about yourself, you need to understand how many people or what percentage of my population is actually engaging in this content, because that's going to tell you a lot. That's going to tell you, it's really compelling when I talk about X as opposed to when I talk about Y, or when I talk about it in this way, or if you get even deeper or more tactical, when I present it in this way, or when I use this particular channel as opposed to that one. So you can learn a lot by understanding what people are sharing, what people are commenting on, and it's an engagement metric as opposed to an acquisition metric.
So I've seen that, and I watch all that because that's part of kind of my responsibility as well in the company here in creating our brand and things like that as well. But one of the things that I've argued in the past with, and I want your opinion on this, is that a lot of my friends say, I'm looking at your content and it's just, man, you're there. You're always there. I see, it looks like you're traveling all over. You're at conferences. You're sitting with the right people. But you know what? Some of those guys, they never read the stuff. But it leaves an impression.
Right, it does.
So
it does.
that number doesn't necessarily show an engagement
that is
by
a good
it.
Point.
But they're looking at it and they're going, you guys are talking to the right people. I see you're always at an SAP event, you're interviewing CEOs and CMOs, you're in the mix with all these conversations. And again, they might not ever open the article, they might not read the blog, they might not watch the video or listen to the podcast, but they see that.
See, that's a really interesting point, because I will stick to my belief that engagement is the key metric, but I also want to take the time to say people are looking at the content, they're looking for the consistency, they're looking for the not just the frequency, but how much, the quantity that you're putting out there, and that says a lot as well. And it's often interesting to me that the majority of people are not necessarily going to share. They're not going to comment. They're not going to engage in the typical fashion. but they're going to see it and they're going to take notice. So don't get discouraged, especially if you're a new company or if you're a smaller company and you're not seeing your engagement rate as what you want it to be. Don't get discouraged, because if you're consistent and you're relevant and you are putting out quality content, people will take notice and you'll start to see organic sort of traction there. And that's, I think, very important. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, let me give a real life example to our viewers here today. So you have an Instagram account, Savvy Click Chick.
Yes, you got it.
Savvy Click Chick. And she talks about fashion and all kinds of really great stuff. I don't read much of it because it's just not my thing. But you know what?
Although you're quite fashionable.
But look at here. I got this new bow tie, and I went to you to ask if it went with this shirt.
He did.
And you know why? Because I know that you have an
choice.
Instagram account, and I see your updates. I see the topics you're covering, so I went to you for advice. Anyway.
But that is how it works, too, because I also want to take a minute to talk about the power of influencers. It's an interesting concept because we hear influencer marketing all the time. That's kind of a new buzzword. But when you really break it down, we're all influencers of some sort. We all have expertise in a certain area. Whether it's you're a mom and you know all of the teachers and the different classes and courses that your kindergartner needs to take, and all your friends ask you, whether you're a foodie and know all the latest hip restaurants and the new chef and the new little places to kind of frequent, no matter what it is, each of us have something that we have a level of expertise around and experience around, and that not customers, but our tribe, our friends and our family consult with us on. So when you talked about like your tie, even though you're not, frequently saying, "Oh, that's a great dress, Yvette," I don't think you've ever done that. In the back of your mind, you're seeing, "Oh, Yvette's an expert in this area."
Yes.
And so it's an opportunity. Social gives us all an opportunity to show off our expertise and to create that tribe of people who are looking for us and asking us questions if you're up to that task. And if you're not, as an individual, at least as a business, understand the value of influencers and identifying key people to affiliate with that you share a passion or a mission with that can help to amplify your brand authentically.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for sharing all this with us. I want to put in a plug for her new station, her new channel on Regalix TV. So Regalix TV is this real, of course, all of you guys watch it already, but regalix.tv is an online TV platform. And inside of Regalix TV are channels. And Yvette's new channel is called Business Style.
Business Style.
Yeah, and you'll be seeing a bunch of episodes come out very quickly. Behind the camera is a dude named Justin, our media guru, and he's preparing a channel too. We're talking about names like Millennial University, Millennial Insight.
I can't wait for that. That's going to be exciting.
Views into the way millennials think for marketers. Yeah. With that, I want to thank all of you guys out there for joining us today. Yvette, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. This was fun, and I just am really appreciative that you decided to interview me.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Have a great day.